As people moved west in the 1860s, some were hoping to start farms and ranches, and as Virginia City and other mining areas developed, ranchers and farmers saw a ready market for their crops. Fallon developed as a ranching and farming area close to the big mining centers of Virginia City, Austin, and Fairview. The Fallon area was once part of the lake bottom of ancient Lake Lahontan. Lake bottoms create a soil that is good for growing crops. Add water from the Carson River to the soil, and conditions are right for farming. But there was a problem. In the 1880s, the Carson River was dried up by July and crops died for lack of water. What to do? At that time, plans were being made by Churchill County residents to build dams to store the Carson River water for irrigation. This idea had already been recommended by the United States Geological Survey, or the USGS, after engineers had made studies of our area. Their studies showed that a dam built on the Truckee River could divert water to a canal that would bring the water 30 miles to the Carson River. All of this water would be used to irrigate about 200,000 acres of farmland. How large an area is 200,000 acres? Well, let's look at a map. This old engineer's map of the proposed irrigation system shows water going as far north as Lovelock and even adding water from the Humboldt River to our irrigation system. The USGS even planned for storage reservoirs where the towns of Stagecoach and Spanish Springs are now. But now we're getting ahead of ourselves in our story. Churchill County's plan never went forward as people were too busy trying to survive the white winter of 1889. This winter was the worst ever recorded in our county's history. It not only killed the irrigation plan, but heavy snows and cold temperatures killed well over half the livestock in the entire county. Worse than that, all that wet snow was followed by a drought. Even after that winter, the problem of water continued to be a troubling issue. 10 years later, in 1899, the county was again planning a reclamation district. This district would include a dam and reservoir on the Carson River. What is reclamation? It literally means to reclaim something. In the West, where much of the land is dry, people wanted to reclaim the soil by adding water to make dry fields into the lush green fields that many of them had farmed in the Midwest and back east. There are rivers in the West, but little rain falls east of the Sierra Nevada range. So to reclaim the land from the desert, farmers needed water to be available all year long. Meanwhile, state politicians debated back and forth on the reclamation issue, but no one could agree which was the best way to go. The answer to the water problem came in 1902 when newly elected President Theodore Roosevelt signed the National Reclamation Act into law. People in Nevada moved quickly, and the Truckee-Carson project was approved as one of 6 first sites for reclamation in the West. One of the main people behind the Truckee-Carson project was a United States Senator from Nevada named Francis G. Newlands. Not only did he play a big part in getting government reclamation going in the West, he just happened to own the land where Lahontan Reservoir is today. Newlands sold that land to the government and made a lot of money for himself. Because he was so influential in getting the irrigation project going, both in the United States Congress and in Nevada, in 1919 people started calling the Truckee-Carson project the Newlands Project. This was a simple way of honoring Senator Newlands, who had died 2 years earlier. We know that irrigation is important, but what is it and how does it work? What type of irrigation is used on the Newlands project, and why is this type of irrigation used here? Let's find the answer to these questions. First, what is irrigation? Have you ever seen a lawn sprinkler watering the grass? Or have you used a watering can to water houseplants? Almost everyone has watered a plant at one time or another. Watering plants is irrigation. But how does pouring water on the ground around plants work? When you are thirsty, you get a glass of water and pour the water into your mouth, one swallow at a time. Plants eat and drink through their roots. When you pour water on the ground around a plant, the roots drink it in, one swallow at a time. Our second question was, what type of irrigation is used on the Newlands project? Watch what is happening in this field in the museum's irrigation exhibit. When the gates of the irrigation ditch are open, water floods over the field, and the water that is not used drains off the field at the other side. This is called flood irrigation. We may think that flooding a field is bad, like sticking our head under water to get a drink. But plants are different, and unless they are underwater for a long time, they won't drown. Our third question was, why do we use flood irrigation in the Lahontan Valley? Flood irrigation is very necessary here and in many desert areas. Why, you may ask? Well, what would happen if you ate a whole handful of salt? That's right, you would get very thirsty, but you would also get very sick and could possibly die. Believe it or not, we have lots of salt around here, a type of salt in the soil called alkali. You will notice it if you take a ride into the country and see large patches of white on the ground that sometimes look like snow. In desert areas that were once lake bottoms, there are often a lot of salts in the soil, and salt doesn't just make plants thirsty, it kills them. We have said that plants eat and drink through their roots. The reason flood irrigation is necessary is that it helps flush the salts down out of the reach of the plant's roots so they can grow in a healthy way.